My name is Rebecca Walsh. I'm 27. My mother threw my wrapped Christmas gift into the fireplace in front of 12 relatives on December 25th, 2023, screaming that I was selfish for bringing cheap garbage into her house. But when my father ripped it from the flames and tore it open to prove his point, what fell out made my mother collapse to her knees. I was 2 hours late to the estate at 847 Riverside Lane in Greenwich, Connecticut. Traffic on I-95 had been brutal, but that excuse died in my throat the second I walked through those mahogany doors at 6:47 p.m. My Aunt Caroline looked up from her wine, her expression somewhere between pity and warning. Uncle Robert shifted uncomfortably. My cousins Emma and Daniel went silent mid-conversation. My father stood by the fireplace in that Brooks Brothers Navy suit, the same one he'd worn every Christmas since 2009. My mother perched on the ivory sofa, her Waterford crystal wine glass catching the chandelier light. Grandmother Patricia sat in the corner, 71 years old and watching everything with sharp eyes. Rebecca. My mother's voice could freeze water. You walk in here 2 hours late with that pathetic little box like you're doing us a favor. The gift was small, 4 inches square, wrapped in silver paper with a navy ribbon. I'd carried it for 4 years, waiting for this exact moment. Mom, I can explain. What is this, Rebecca? A keychain? She stood up, heels clicking against the marble floor. A bookmark from the hospital gift shop where you work? I make $68,400 a year as a nurse at Yale New Haven Hospital. It's never been enough for them. Let me guess. My father moved toward me. Something you grabbed at CVS on your way over, because you forgot about your own family again. Tom, maybe just let her, Aunt Caroline tried. No, Caroline. He stepped closer to me. She needs to learn. Every year it's the same disrespect. My mother snatched the box from my hands. The ribbon came undone. She held it up like evidence in a trial, showing it to my grandmother, to my cousins, to the 7 other relatives whose names I barely remembered because these gatherings had become performances of my inadequacy. This is what you brought to Christmas? She turned toward the fireplace. Mom, don't. She threw it into the flames. The silver paper caught immediately, curling black at the edges. I lunged forward, but my father grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to bruise. I watched the navy ribbon melt. Let it burn, he said. Maybe you'll remember next year. Something in me snapped. You don't know what that is. I know exactly what it is. Another disappointment. Aunt Caroline stood up. Tom, for God's sake. But my father was already moving. He reached into the fireplace with the brass poker, pulled out the box, threw it on the floor and stomped on it. The flames had barely touched the inside. He ripped away the scorched paper. A small flash drive fell out. Then a folded letter, edges brown from heat. Then a USB stick, labeled in handwriting I recognized instantly. Dad, August 2019, Street Francis Hospital. My father went completely still. My mother's wineglass slipped from her hand and shattered, $340 worth of crystal exploding across the floor. Nobody moved to clean it. That's... My father's voice disappeared. Grandmother Patricia stood up slowly. Is that Bill's handwriting? My grandfather, Bill Walsh. Dead August 14th, 2019 at Street Francis Hospital in Hartford after fighting pancreatic cancer. I'd held his hand when he died. I'd been 23 years old, and the only family member in that room. My father picked up the letter with shaking hands. Started reading silently. His face went white. Read it out loud, my mother demanded. If Rebecca brought it here for all of us to see. Susan, I don't think. Read it. His voice cracked. Dad, if you're reading this, I'm gone. The cancer won. He paused, swallowed hard. I'm recording this message because there are things you need to know about Rebecca. Things I should have told you years ago. Please watch this alone first. He stopped. It's signed Bill. The room had no sound except the fire crackling. My cousin Emma stared at me. Uncle Robert's face had gone red. Aunt Caroline's hand covered her mouth. Bill died 4 years ago. My mother's whisper barely carried. How did you? Grandpa Bill gave this to me 3 days before he died, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. August 11th, 2019. He was still lucid then. He made me promise to give it to Dad exactly 4 years later, on Christmas, in front of the whole family. My father stared at the flash drive like it might explode. He said you'd try to bury it otherwise, I continued. He said you all needed to see who you really are. What's on it? Grandmother Patricia's question cut through the silence. I looked at my father, at the man who'd spent 27 years telling me I wasn't enough, smart enough, successful enough. The man who'd just let my gift burn rather than give me 30 seconds to explain. I don't know, I said. Grandpa made me promise not to watch it. He said it wasn't for me. It was for all of you. That was a lie. I'd watched it exactly once, alone in my apartment in New Haven on December 26th, 2022. I'd needed to know if I could actually go through with this. The recording was 19 minutes long. In it, my grandfather explained exactly why he'd cut my father out of his will, why he'd left his entire estate to me instead, why he'd spent the last decade documenting every cruel thing this family had done to the granddaughter who'd actually shown up, who'd actually cared, who'd held his hand while he died instead of arguing about inheritance in the hospital cafeteria. My father had been in Hartford that day. So had my mother. They'd driven up from Greenwich, spent 45 minutes asking the oncologist about assets, then left without visiting his room. I'd watched them walk past his door. Put it in, my mother said, looking at the laptop on the side table. Put it in right now. My father's hands shook so badly he could barely hold the flash drive. Grandmother Patricia walked over and took it from him. She slid it into the USB port and stepped back. The screen flickered. My grandfather's face appeared, gaunt from chemo but eyes bright. The date stamp read August 11th, 2019, 2:34 p.m. Tom, Grandpa Bill's voice began. If you're watching this, it means Rebecca kept her promise. Good girl, always knew she would. My father sat down heavily. My mother stood frozen. Around the room, 12 relatives who'd watched me get humiliated stared at the screen. I need to tell you about the night Rebecca was born, Grandpa Bill continued. About what you said in that hospital room. About what I've kept secret because I was ashamed. I watched my father's face crumble. Watched him understand that some truths wait patiently for exactly the right moment to burn everything down. She deserves better than this family gave her, my grandfather said from beyond the grave. And I'm going to make sure she gets it. The living room feels like a photograph. Nobody moves. My father stares at the flash drive like it's evidence at a crime scene. My mother's hand hovers near her throat. Grandmother Patricia sits in the wingback chair by the window, her face drained of color. Someone's iPhone timer goes off in the kitchen, the turkey, forgotten. The SanDisk 32 gigabytes flash drive sits on the coffee table between us. Blue ink, shaky letters spelling out my father's name in Grandpa Bill's handwriting. The letter next to it, Street, Francis Hospital letterhead from Hartford, dated August 11th, 2019, 3 days before he died at 2:34 a.m. from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. My cousin Emma has her iPhone 13 pointed at us. Recording. She hasn't lowered it since my father pulled the drive from the flames. Uncle Robert stands near the Steinway piano, same spot he occupied when Grandpa Bill's will was read back in September 2019. Rebecca. My father's voice sounds like gravel. How long have you been sitting on this? 4 years, 1 month, 11 days. My mother makes a sound in her throat. You've had a message from my father-in-law for 4 years and never said anything? He didn't make me promise silence. My voice is steady. He made me promise timing. Grandmother Patricia's hands gripped the armrests. Billy knew exactly what he was doing. He always did. My father turns to her. Mom, did you know about this? Your father told me he was setting something right. Her voice breaks. He didn't tell me how. Aunt Caroline moves closer to the laptop on the side table. Tom, maybe we should all watch it together. If Bill wanted it at Christmas, in front of everyone. The letter says alone first. My father picks up the paper, hands shaking. I'm respecting that. No. Everyone looks at me. Grandpa's exact words to me were, give this to your father on Christmas 2023, in front of the whole family, so he can't pretend it doesn't exist. I can hear his voice in my memory, thin from morphine but clear. He'll want to watch it alone. Don't let him. Make him play it right there. The silence stretches. Outside, a car alarm goes off on Riverside Lane. Those were his words. I repeat. My father looks at the flash drive, at the laptop, at his mother in that chair, at my mother, who's moved behind the sofa like she needs furniture, between her and whatever's coming. Tom. Uncle Robert's voice is careful. Maybe she's right. You have no idea what you're doing. My father's words come out quiet, which makes them more terrifying than yelling. I meet his eyes. My heart pounds so hard I taste copper. Grandpa said you'd say that. Rebecca. He also said that in 2016, you told him I was mentally unstable and shouldn't be trusted around grandmother Patricia unsupervised. The words feel like stones. He recorded you saying it. It's in the first 12 minutes of that video. The color drains from my father's face. My mother steps back, hand over her mouth. Grandmother Patricia makes a sound between a gasp and a sob. May 7th, 2016. I continue. You were in his study in West Hartford before he moved to assisted living. He'd started recording conversations because cancer treatments affected his memory. You didn't know the recorder was running. Emma's still filming. I can see the red button glowing on her screen. You told him I was dangerous. I say that I'd stolen from grandmother's purse at Thanksgiving 2015, that I'd been fired from 3 nursing jobs, that I was probably using drugs. Stop. My father's voice cracks. None of it was true. My hands shake. I've worked at Yale New Haven Hospital since 2018. Same job, never fired, never written up. I don't use drugs, Dad. Grandmother Patricia stands. She's crying, tears running down her face silently. She walks to the coffee table, picks up the flash drive with both hands like it's fragile, carries it to the laptop. Mom, wait. My father starts. No. Her voice is steel. Sit down, Thomas. He sits. She plugs in the drive. The laptop whirs. A folder appears. Walsh Family Truth. 47 minutes. 3 recordings. 47 minutes. Seeing the number makes my stomach drop. Grandmother Patricia clicks the first file. My grandfather's face fills the screen, looking directly at the camera. The timestamp reads August 8th, 2019, 10:23 a.m. Tom! Grandpa Bill's voice comes through the speakers, clear despite the oxygen tube. If you're watching this, Rebecca kept her promise. Good girl. My father's jaw clenches. I'm going to tell you things I should have said 30 years ago, my grandfather continues. About how you were raised, about what your mother and I did wrong, about Rebecca. The room is so quiet I can hear Daniel breathing 3 feet away. But first, Grandpa Bill says, his expression hardening, I want you to listen to a recording from May 7th, 2016. I want you to hear yourself. The screen goes black. Audio plays, tinny and distant. My father's voice, younger, angrier. Dad, Rebecca is not stable. She tried to take Mom's wallet. I saw no such thing. Grandpa Bill's voice, tired but firm. Because you weren't watching. She's manipulative. I watch my father's face crumble. Watch him understand that some truths wait patiently for the right moment to burn everything down. She deserves better than this family gave her, my grandfather says from beyond the grave, and I'm going to make sure she gets it. My name is Rebecca Walsh. I'm 28. On September 6th, 2024, my father connected a flash drive to the Samsung TV above my dead grandfather's fireplace, and the first thing I saw was Bill sitting in his hospital room wearing the gray cardigan I bought him for Father's Day 2019. The date stamp read the 11th of August 2019, 9:17 a.m., 3 months before he died. His voice came through the speakers, raspy but clear. Rebecca, if you're watching this, it means I'm dead, and it means your father did what I asked, or more likely, you forced him to play this. Good girl. My chest tightened. Bill's face looked thinner than I remembered, the oxygen tube cutting across his cheek. Behind him, I could see the window of room 4402 at Street, Francis Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. Morning light made his skin look paper thin. Here's what you need to know, he said. In March 2003, I put $1.8 million in a trust for you at Morgan Stanley. You were supposed to get access at 25. In 2016, your father came to me and said you were mentally unstable. I stopped breathing. He said you were seeing a therapist for depression. He said you were making reckless choices. He convinced me to let him control when you'd receive the money. I believed him. I changed the trust. My father stood by the window, shoulders rigid. My mother sat frozen on the couch. Aunt Caroline's hand covered her mouth. Grandmother Patricia watched the screen like she already knew every word coming next. The video cut to audio, static, then my father's voice. Dad, she's not stable enough for that kind of money. She'll blow it. You know how she is impulsive, emotional. I'm thinking of her future. My mother's voice in the background, distant but audible. We're protecting her from herself, Bill. September 23rd, 2016. I was 22 years old. I'd just started my nursing program at Southern Connecticut State University. I wasn't seeing a therapist. I wasn't depressed. I was working at the campus library 30 hours a week and studying anatomy until 2 in the morning. Bill's face returned to the screen. His eyes were wet. I believed them, Rebecca. I'm so sorry. Then in 2018, I got suspicious. You seemed fine to me, happy, even. Working at Yale New Haven Hospital, living in that apartment in New Haven you loved. So I started recording what I found. He paused. What your parents said, when they thought I couldn't hear. The audio shifted again. Voices over dinner, the clink of silverware against plates. March 12th, 2018. My mother spoke first. She doesn't need to know about the trust until we're ready. If she asks about inheritance, we'll say Bill spent it on medical care. She won't ask, my father said. She's never cared about money. Aunt Caroline's voice cut in. That feels wrong, Tom. It's her money. It's family money, my father replied. We'll decide when she's mature enough. I turned to look at him. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His jaw worked like he was chewing something bitter, but he didn't speak, didn't deny it, didn't explain. The video showed 11 different recordings. 11 separate conversations Bill had captured between 2016 and 2019. My parents discussing how to keep me away from the trust. My mother suggesting they tell me Bill had dementia if I ever asked questions. My father calculating how long they could delay distribution without legal consequences. One conversation from January 4th, 2019, played over footage of a New Year's dinner I remembered attending. My father's voice, calm and measured. She's too trusting. Always has been. She'll believe whatever we tell her. He was right. I had believed them. When Bill got sick and they started handling his finances, I never questioned it. When they said his medical bills were draining his savings, I offered to help pay. I sent $3,200 from my own account in July 2019 to cover what they said was a gap in his prescription coverage. The medication was fully covered by Medicare. I checked later. He never needed my money. Bill's face filled the screen again, larger now, closer to the iPad camera. Rebecca, there's more. Your father didn't just lie about you. In April 2019, he forged my signature on documents, transferring $240,000 from your trust into an account he controls. I have the bank records. The room went silent, except for Bill's voice. They're in a safety deposit box at First Republic Bank in Hartford. Box 2847. The key is taped inside the copy of East of Eden on my bookshelf at the house. Your grandmother knows which one. Grandmother Patricia stood up. She didn't look at anyone. She walked out of the living room, her footsteps steady on the hardwood floor, and I heard the front door close behind her. My father finally spoke. Rebecca, don't, I said. He tried again. You don't understand the full context. You told him I was mentally unstable. My voice came out flat, cold. You lied to a dying man about his granddaughter so you could steal money he set aside for me when I was 7 years old. We were protecting the family assets. You forged his signature. I stood up. You took $240,000 and thought what? That he'd die before he noticed? That I'd never find out? My mother's face had gone gray. She looked older suddenly, smaller. We were going to give it to you eventually, when you were ready. I was ready at 25, I said. That was the point of the trust. Bill made that decision 16 years ago, and you erased it because you thought you knew better. The TV screen had gone black. Bill's video had ended. But I could still see his face in my mind, the way his eyes looked directly at the camera like he was looking at me. Like he knew exactly what I'd need to hear when this moment came. I picked up my purse from the chair. My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed steady. I'm going to First Republic Bank tomorrow morning at 9. I'm getting those records, and then I'm calling a lawyer. My father stepped toward me. Rebecca, please. You had 3 years, I said. 3 years since Bill died to tell me the truth. You chose this. I walked out the same door Grandmother Patricia had used. The September air felt cold against my face, sharp and clean. My car sat in the driveway where I'd parked it 2 hours earlier, back when I still believed my parents were decent people who'd made complicated choices. The book was waiting on Bill's shelf. East of Eden, first edition, the spine cracked from years of reading. The key was exactly where he said it would be, taped inside the front cover with medical tape that had yellowed at the edges. I held it in my palm. Small, brass, stamped with the number 2847. Bill had known. He'd known what they were, what they'd do, and he'd left me everything I needed to prove it. Grandmother Patricia walked back into the room carrying a hardcover book with a cracked spine the color of faded whiskey. She didn't say anything. She just opened East of Eden, the 1952 signature edition Bill inherited from his mother, and held it upside down over the glass coffee table. A brass key fell. It hit the surface with a sound like a judge's gavel. My mother started crying. My father hadn't moved since Bill's video mentioned the forged documents. He stood by the window, his back to all of us, shoulders pulled tight like he was bracing for impact. The video kept playing. Bill's face on the screen, oxygen tube across his cheek, eyes clear and focused. The timestamp showed 19 minutes remaining. My father turned around. He was on morphine. Dad was confused those last weeks. This is... He anticipated you'd say that, I said. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. Cream-colored, thick paper, sealed with red wax I hadn't broken. I handed it to Uncle Robert. He looked at me, then at my father, then broke the seal. The wax cracked cleanly down the middle. He unfolded the documents inside, his eyes moving across the page. When he looked up, his face had changed. This is notarized, Uncle Robert said. August 13th, 2019, 4:15 p.m. witness signatures from 2 RNs and... He paused. Jennifer Caldwell, estate attorney. My father's jaw tightened. Uncle Robert kept reading. Tom, these are bank records. Morgan Stanley. Your signature. March 15th, 2019. Transfer of $240,000 from Rebecca's trust to an account ending in 7,734. That was for her student loans, my father said quickly. She asked me to... I've never had student loans. My voice came out flat, factual. I had a full scholarship to UConn. You were at my graduation in May 2018. You know this. Cousin Emma, sitting on the arm of the sofa, shook her head. Uncle Tom, just stop. My mother tried again. Rebecca, your father was trying to protect that money. We were going to give it to you when... When what, Mom? I turned to face her directly. When I proved I deserved my own inheritance? When I passed whatever test you invented? Aunt Caroline stood up from the love seat. Her voice cut through the room like cold air. Tom, where's the $240,000 now? 7 seconds passed. I counted them. My father stared at the floor, then at the wall, then finally at Aunt Caroline. I used it for home renovations, he said. I was going to pay it back. The kitchen they remodeled in June 2020. The new deck they built that summer. The bathroom with Italian tile my mother posted on Facebook in November of that year. My money. Spent on their house while they told Bill I was too unstable to handle my own trust fund. Grandmother Patricia's voice came quiet and sharp. You stole from my granddaughter and then spent 3 years calling her ungrateful. My father's face went red, then white. Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, she said. You're exactly like your brother Richard. Entitled. Dishonest. And too arrogant to think you'd get caught. Uncle Robert was still reading the documents. There's a handwritten note from Bill here, he said. He read it aloud. These are copies. Originals in box 2847. If Tom claims I was confused, remember, I was lucid enough to have this notarized. Bill had known. He'd known exactly what my father would say, exactly how he'd try to discredit the evidence, and he'd closed every escape route before he died. The video continued playing behind us. Bill's voice filled the silence. Rebecca, the bank records show the transfer memo line on that $240,000. It says education expenses, Rebecca Walsh. You never received that money, did you? I shook my head even though he couldn't see me. Of course you didn't, Bill said from the screen. Because your father doesn't steal small. He steals strategically. He creates a paper trail that makes him look generous while he's robbing you blind. Aunt Caroline walked over to my father. She stood in front of him, close enough that he had to look at her. You watched Rebecca work double shifts at Yale New Haven Hospital. You watched her send you money in July 2019 to help with your father's medical bills. And the whole time, you had $240,000 of her money in your pocket. He didn't answer. Say something, Aunt Caroline said. I made a mistake. His voice sounded hollow, rehearsed. You made a choice, I said. You made it in September 2016 when you lied to Bill about my mental health. You made it in April 2019 when you forged his signature. You made it every single day for 3 years when you let me believe I was the problem in this family. My mother stood up. Rebecca, we love you. We were just… Don't. I held up my hand. Don't tell me you love me. People who love you don't steal from you. They don't lie about you. They don't gaslight you into thinking you're unstable so they can justify controlling your life. Cousin Emma picked up the brass key from the coffee table. First Republic Bank, 892, Main Street, Hartford. Box 2847. She handed it to me. Let's go get the rest of the evidence. Bill's voice cut through the room again, louder now, more urgent. Rebecca, I'm going to tell you something your father has hidden since you were 11 years old. Something that explains why he's so afraid of you having money, having power, having independence. I froze. Everyone turned toward the screen. It's about what happened to your sister, Sarah, Bill said. The sister they told you died of SIDS in 1997. That's not what happened. And your father knows it. The room went absolutely silent. Even my mother stopped crying. I had a sister, Sarah. Born March 1996. Died August 1997. I was 11 months old when she died. They'd told me it was sudden infant death syndrome. Crib death. Unexplained. Tragic. My father's face had gone gray. What does he mean? I asked. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. My father didn't move, didn't speak. Tom, Grandmother Patricia said slowly. What happened to Sarah? The video played on. Bill's face filled the screen, his eyes looking directly at the camera, directly at me. Your father made a choice that night, and he's been running from it ever since. Bill's voice came through the speakers, and my hands went numb. Sarah, a name I hadn't heard spoken aloud in 16 years. Sarah Marie Walsh. Born January 8th, 1997. Died April 3rd, 1997. 2 months and 26 days old. I was 3 when it happened. I barely remember her. Baby photos removed from albums before I was old enough to ask questions. A small gravestone in Fairview Cemetery. My mother visits alone every year on the anniversary. SIDS, they always said. Sudden infant death syndrome. God's will. Unexplainable tragedy. Bill's face on the screen looked older suddenly, his eyes wet. Sarah had a skull fracture, he said. The ME found it during autopsy. The room temperature dropped. Or maybe that was just me. Tom said he was changing her, Bill continued. Said she slipped from the changing table. Your mother backed his story, but Sarah's injuries. His voice cracked. The ME told me privately they weren't consistent with a fall from that height. They suggested shaking, or something worse. I turned to look at my father. He was staring at the floor, his face the color of old newspaper. Police investigated for 2 months, Bill said. Connecticut State Police, case number 97 to 4402, opened April 3rd, 1997. 997. They interviewed both parents, examined the home, reviewed medical records. Not enough evidence. They closed it June 18th, 1997. Inconclusive, but I couldn't close it in my heart. Documents appeared on the screen. Police reports. Medical examiner findings. Bill had obtained them in 2018 through a Freedom of Information Act request. 21 years after Sarah died, he'd gone looking for proof. The medical examiner's report showed injuries inconsistent with SIDS, consistent with impact trauma or shaking. No charges filed. Both parents present in the home. No witnesses. No way to prove which parent caused the injuries. Case closed. You killed her, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. My father looked up. It was an accident. She slipped. I tried to catch her. You told me she died in her sleep, Thomas. Grandmother Patricia's voice cut through the room like glass breaking. You told everyone SIDS. You let us believe God took her for no reason. My mother was sobbing now, her shoulders shaking. It was an accident. He was devastated. We were both devastated. Uncle Robert stood up from the couch. You covered it up. Jesus Christ, Tom. You covered up our niece's death. Bill's video kept playing. I wanted to go to the police again in 1998, he said. Your mother threatened to keep you from me if I did. She said I'd lose my granddaughter too. So I stayed quiet. I protected Tom. I protected their lie. And I've hated myself for it every day since. I felt like I was watching this happen to someone else. Like I was floating somewhere above my own body, observing from a distance that made everything feel unreal. Rebecca, I'm telling you now, because you deserve to know why your father has spent your entire life controlling you, Bill said. He's terrified. Terrified that if you have money, independence, freedom, you'll dig into the past. You'll ask questions. You'll find what he buried. Everything clicked into place. The overprotectiveness that felt suffocating. The need to control every aspect of my life. The lies to his own father about my mental health. The stolen trust fund. It wasn't about protecting family assets. It was about keeping me dependent. Keeping me too poor, too busy, too grateful, to start asking questions about my sister. Aunt Caroline was standing now too. How long have you known this? She asked my mother. My mother didn't answer. She just cried harder, her hands covering her face. 26 years, I said. She's known for 26 years. Bill's face filled the screen again. He looked directly at the camera, directly at me. Rebecca, there's one more thing. In 2002, your mother became pregnant again. You were 6. She miscarried at 8 weeks. Or, that's what she told everyone. My mother's crying stopped. She went completely still. I found medical records in 2018, Bill said. She didn't miscarry. She terminated the pregnancy at a clinic in New Haven on October 14th, 2002. I found an email she sent your father. I'm going to read it to you now. The room held its breath, Bill's voice, reading my mother's words. I can't risk another baby. Not after Sarah. Not with you. Silence. Total, absolute silence. I looked at my mother. She was staring at the TV screen like it was a window into hell. Mom, I said quietly, you've protected him for 26 years. She didn't deny it. She didn't explain. She just sat there, broken and exposed, her entire life revealed as a structure built on covering for a man who killed their daughter. Cousin Emma backed away from the couch, her face pale. Uncle Robert's hand was over his mouth. Aunt Caroline looked like she might be sick. Grandmother Patricia walked to the TV and turned it off. Bill's face disappeared. The room felt darker without it. Get out of my house, she said to my father. Her voice was steady, cold. Both of you, now. My father tried to speak. Mom, Now, she repeated. They left. My mother first, stumbling toward the door like she couldn't see clearly. My father behind her, shoulders hunched, defeated. The front door closed. Their car started. Headlights swept across the living room wall, then disappeared down the driveway. I stood in the middle of Grandmother Patricia's living room, holding a brass key to a safety deposit box that contained evidence of fraud and theft. But that wasn't the crime that mattered anymore. That wasn't the truth that changed everything. My sister died because my father hurt her, and my mother spent 26 years protecting him from consequences. I would never forgive that. I would never understand it. But I finally understood why Bill had recorded everything, documented everything, left me every piece of evidence I needed to break free. He couldn't save Sarah, but he could save me. The key felt heavy in my palm. Small, brass, stamped with the number 2847. Tomorrow I'd go to First Republic Bank on 892 Main Street in Hartford. I'd open that box. I'd collect the rest of the evidence. And then I'd decide what to do with the truth. But tonight, I stood in my grandmother's house, surrounded by family, who finally saw what I'd been living with my entire life. Control disguised as love. Manipulation disguised as protection. A lie so big it had shaped every relationship, every choice, every moment of my childhood. I wasn't that powerless child anymore. I was 28 years old, standing in the wreckage of my parents' carefully constructed mythology, holding proof of everything they'd tried to hide. And I was free. My mother's heels clicked against the marble hallway. Fast, frantic, like she was running from something that was chasing her. A door slammed upstairs. The sound echoed through Grandmother Patricia's house like a gunshot. My father sat on the leather sofa, face buried in his hands. The TV screen showed 4 minutes and 18 seconds remaining on Bill's video. 11 relatives sat in complete silence. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Grandmother Patricia picked up the brass key from the coffee table. She walked over to me and placed it in my palm, closing my fingers around it. "I'm changing my will tonight," she said quietly. "Everything goes to you, Rebecca. Tom gets nothing." It was December 25th, 2023, 8:34 in the evening. Christmas dinner sat untouched in the dining room, turkey gone cold on bone china plates. Bill's face filled the screen again. He looked tired but peaceful, like a man who'd finally set down something heavy he'd been carrying too long. "Rebecca, here's what I want you to do," he said. "First, get the documents from box 2847. Second, contact Jennifer Caldwell, her number is in the envelope. She's been my attorney since 1987. She knows everything I've told you today, and she has copies of all evidence. Third, you have a choice." He paused, shifting in his hospital bed. The oxygen tube moved across his face. "You can pursue criminal charges for the fraud. You can sue for recovery of funds. Or you can walk away. I've given you the truth. What you do with it is yours to decide." I realized I was holding my breath. "What do you think I should do, Grandpa?" I whispered to the screen, even though he couldn't hear me, even though he'd been dead since November 2019. Bill smiled, sad, knowing. "I think you should remember that freedom isn't the same as revenge. Your father is broken, Rebecca. He broke himself long before he tried to break you. You don't need to destroy him. You just need to refuse to carry his secrets anymore. Take your money, build your life, let him live with what he's done. That's more punishment than any court could give." Grandmother Patricia made a sound like disagreement. "Billy was wise, but he's not here anymore. I am, and I'm telling you, take everything that's yours, and don't look back." Aunt Caroline leaned forward from her chair by the fireplace. "Rebecca, I'm an estate attorney. I can file paperwork on Monday. We can freeze the remaining trust assets, demand full accounting, pursue recovery plus damages. It's open and shut fraud." My father looked up. His face had aged 10 years in the last hour. "I'll pay it back. All of it. Please. I'll sell the house. You can't sell the house, Dad." My voice came out steady, cold. "You refinanced it in 2020 and took out $380,000. I looked it up. The bank owns it." His face went white. He'd forgotten I was smart. He'd spent so many years convincing himself I was impulsive, unstable, incapable, he actually believed it. Uncle Robert spoke for the first time since the video started. "I'm FBI, Tom. Stationed in Boston. I can make some calls. Review the 1,997 case files. See if there's criminal fraud in the trust matter. Statute of limitations is tricky, but wire fraud is federal. That's a different timeline. Cousin Emma held up her phone. I recorded the whole video, uploaded it to private cloud storage, 3 copies, just in case anyone gets ideas about making evidence disappear. My father looked around the room at his family, his mother, his brother, his sister, his nieces and nephews. Every single one of them had chosen a side, and it wasn't his. The video ended. Bill's face faded to black. The TV screen went dark. I stood up, picked up the flash drive, the brass key, the notarized envelope with my name written in Bill's handwriting across the front. "I'm going to Hartford tomorrow morning," I said. "I'm opening that safety deposit box at First Republic Bank on 892 Main Street. I'm meeting with Jennifer Caldwell at Caldwell and Rhodes. And then I'm going to make my decision." I looked at my father. He couldn't meet my eyes. "You have until December 31st to transfer the full trust balance all. 1,847,000 plus the 1,847,000 plus the 240,000 you stole, plus interest calculated from March 15th, 2019 into an account in my name at Morgan Stanley. If I see 1 penny less, Aunt Caroline files everything on January 2nd, and Uncle Robert starts asking his FBI friends about statute of limitations on fraud. Do you understand?" He nodded. Couldn't speak, just nodded. "I need to hear you say it," I said. "I understand," he whispered. I walked toward the front door. Aunt Caroline followed me. Uncle Robert, Cousin Emma, and her brother Daniel. Grandmother Patricia handed me my coat from the hallway closet, the black wool one I'd worn to Bill's funeral 4 years ago. "Where will you stay tonight?" she asked. "Holiday Inn on Route 84, I said. "I already booked it." She smiled, proud. "You're smarter than all of them." I drove to the hotel in silence, checked into room 304, sat on the edge of the bed with the envelope in my hands. Inside was a business card for Jennifer Caldwell, a handwritten note from Bill dated August 12, 2019, and a photocopy of Sarah's death certificate. The note was short. "Rebecca, by the time you read this, you'll know everything. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you while I was alive. I'm sorry I protected them for so long. But you're free now. You were always meant to be free. Love, Grandpa Bill." I didn't cry. I'd cried enough for one lifetime. I called Jennifer Caldwell's office and left a voicemail. "This is Rebecca Walsh, Bill Walsh's granddaughter. I need to schedule an appointment for December 26th if possible. I have documents to review and decisions to make." Then I called the front desk and asked for a wake-up call at 7 in the morning. I had $2,087,000 to recover, a sister to honor, and a future to build that belonged entirely to me. No more secrets, no more control, no more living small to make other people comfortable. Bill had given me the truth. What I did with it was mine to decide. And I'd decided. December 31st, 2023, 3:47 in the afternoon. I sat in Jennifer Caldwell's office at Caldwell and Rhodes, 1400 Asylum Avenue, Hartford. The office smelled like leather and old paper, the kind of scent that made you feel like important decisions happened here. Through the window behind her desk, snow fell over Bushnell Park, quiet and steady. On the desk between us sat a Morgan Stanley statement. Account balance, $2,198,483.67. The full trust, the stolen amount, 4 years of accrued interest, and a $10,000 payment my father had added without explanation. An apology, maybe. Or guilt. Or both. Jennifer slid the document across the mahogany surface toward me. "It transferred last night at 11:52 p.m. The account is in your name solely. Trustee designation removed. It's yours, Rebecca." I stared at the numbers. They didn't feel real yet. 6 days ago, I didn't know this money existed. Now it was mine. And my parents' reputation within the family was destroyed. And Bill was still dead. And none of it brought my sister back. "Your grandfather talked about you constantly in those final weeks," Jennifer said. Her voice was kind, practiced. She'd been doing estate law since 1987, according to the diploma on the wall. "He said you were the only one who visited without wanting something. You just sat with him, read to him." "East of Eden," I said. He loved that book. He wanted you to have choices, Rebecca. Not just money. Choices. The freedom to build whatever life you want without asking permission. I nodded. My throat felt tight. I keep thinking about my sister, Sarah. How different everything would have been if she'd lived. Jennifer leaned back in her chair. Bill thought about her too. He told me that Sarah's death broke your father, but instead of healing, your father chose control. Control over your mother, control over the narrative, and eventually, control over you. Bill said his biggest regret was waiting so long to stop it. The radiator hissed in the corner. Outside, a car horn echoed through the snow. Do you think I should have pressed charges? I asked. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think Bill gave you the truth and the choice for a reason. Revenge would have kept you tied to them. This way, you're free. She opened a drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope. Cream-colored, thick paper. My name written across the front in Bill's handwriting. He left this with me in August 2019. He said to give it to you after everything else was resolved. I took the envelope. The seal was still intact. I broke it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper, dated August 13, 2019, 11 p.m. hours before he died. Rebecca, money is a tool. Use it to build, not destroy. Use it to become who you were always meant to be, not who they tried to make you. I love you. You were the best thing our family ever made, Grandpa Bill. I cried. For the first time since Christmas, since the video, since everything shattered and reassembled into something I didn't recognize yet, I sat in Jennifer Caldwell's leather chair and cried while snow fell over Hartford and the radiator hissed and she handed me tissues from a box on her desk without saying anything at all. My fee for her work was $8,500. I wrote the check right there. My first financial decision with my own money. I left her office at 4:23 p.m. Snow covered the sidewalks, the streets, the cars parked along Asylum Avenue. I drove through Hartford with the heat on high and the radio off. I stopped at the Stop and Shop on Main Street, bought a single white rose from the floral section near the registers. Fairview Cemetery was quiet. The graves looked smaller under snow, like the earth was trying to cover them gently. I found Sarah's headstone in the children's section. Small, gray, granite. Sarah Marie Walsh. The 8th of January 1997, the 3rd of April 1997. I placed the rose at the base of the stone. I'm sorry I didn't know you, I whispered. I'm sorry they buried the truth with you, but I know now, and I'm going to live the life they tried to keep from me. For both of us. The wind picked up. Snow swirled across the graves. I stood there for 5 minutes, maybe 10. Then I got back in my car and drove to my apartment in New Haven, 847 Howard Avenue, 3rd floor. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table, booked a one-way flight to Portland, Oregon, departing January 15th, 2024. I'd always wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest. I'd always wanted to work in patient advocacy instead of nursing. I'd always wanted to write. Now I could. My phone buzzed. Text from my mother. Please call. We can fix this. We're still your family. I deleted it without responding. Another text. Grandmother Patricia, Billy would be proud of you. I typed back. I hope so. On January 3rd, I'd walk into Yale New Haven Hospital and give my 4-week notice. I'd work through the end of the month, train my replacement, say goodbye to patients I'd cared about. Then, I'd leave Connecticut. Leave the graves and the lies and the family who'd spent 26 years protecting a man who killed his own daughter. I created a new folder on my laptop, titled it, Sarah's Story, a Memoir. I began typing. My name is Rebecca Walsh. I'm 27 years old. I had a sister who died when I was 3. For 24 years, I believed it was Sid's. It wasn't. This is the story of what happens when the truth comes back from the grave, wrapped in silver paper with a navy ribbon, and changes everything. The cursor blinked. Waiting. I kept writing. About Bill. About the trust fund. About my father's lies and my mother's complicity, and the way a family can build itself around a secret so big, it becomes the foundation everything else stands on. And what happens when that foundation cracks? Bill had given me $2.1 million, but the real gift was permission to stop carrying other people's secrets. I'm free now, and I'm never going back.